Hey Team Titleist, I'm Johnny Keefer and I'm going to take you through my bag. Starting with the golf ball, I have the Pro V1x and this is how I mark it. Real simple, real clean. One really thin line, blue, with a little dot over the one. Usually shorter putts, kind of inside that 10-foot range. I pretty much always use a line, making sure that the putter head is lined up with the ball correctly and aiming where I want it to be. That way I'm set up for success, right? So, yeah, my biggest thing is just making sure that I'm lined up the correct way so that I can just focus on the speed. I like the Pro V1X because I think it comes out the perfect window for me. I hit the ball low, so to have a little bit of the height and the spin that I need on my driver and my long clubs is definitely useful out on these tour greens. So I've always loved the feel of the X. It's always had a nice feel around the greens, nice feel with the wedges, and I think that's really important for me. I've always liked to have a little bit more spin. That way, when I flight the wedges, I can still hit it and stop it. So, I've always really enjoyed the Pro V1X. All right, next up is the driver. I've got the GT2. I've got a little lead tape on it. This is a 10 degree. That's actually, I think, 11 degrees. I always need height and spin with the driver. I've always hit the ball really low. So, growing up in Texas with all the wind, kind of, naturally shapes it low. So I need the loft. Yeah, I've always really liked the Titleist stuff. It's always been really consistent. This GT2 is really good. This was the Diamana whiteboard, 73 TX, and yeah, it's been great. Definitely coming out the window that I want. Overall, this is one of my favorite clubs in the bag. All right, next up is the 3-wood. It's kind of the hybrid in between a 3 and a 4-wood for me. Again, this is the whiteboard Diamana shaft. I have the GT2. I like the bigger heads. As you can see between me and this one and the driver, they usually just sit better for me. They get a little bit more forgiveness, and I get a little bit more height for me. So, I have a little bit of extra loft, but it still goes pretty far. I really like this one. There aren't many 3-woods that I like, so this one's kind of my baby. I really haven't even changed the head since I got it, so yeah, I really love that one. This one's the 7-wood. The 7-wood was a new addition for the PGA Championship. Since then, I've used it a decent amount between the US Open and a few other tournaments that have a little bit firmer greens. This one really helps me get it up in the air. That 250-yard range, 260-yard range. Again, same shaft. Everything's coming out the same window. This is the GT2 as well. And yeah, this one's been really good. So next up is the 3-iron. This is the T200. I've had this one in for a long time. Again, this one's kind of a baby in my bag. So I've always really liked this club. I always love 3-iron off the tees and stuff like that, just whenever I need to get it in the fairway. So it's a really reliable club for me. And then I've got the T150 in the 4-iron. Again, getting a little bit of extra height and forgiveness in these long irons is really important, especially when you're coming into a par 5 or into a long par 3 and you need a little bit more height. So yeah, I really love this one. And I've got a little different one in the 5-iron. This one's a T100. Again, more just for the height and spin. I've had this one for a long time as well and really like it. For the rest of the irons from 6 down to the 9, I use the CBs. I don't know, I've always really liked the way that the CBs interact with the turf. I like the way that it sits, and I've always liked the thought of having whatever club is best for whatever shot I need. And for me, I've always needed a little bit more height. So these longer clubs, I've always needed to get a little bit more up, but I still want to be really precise and really like the way that it interacts and everything. So the 3-iron, obviously, that's a no-brainer. The 200, I really haven't changed that. The 150, again, I just needed some more height than the T100 was giving me. With the 5-iron, it was great, but the 4-iron, it was slightly off. So I worked on it, and I had the T150 set, and I really liked it, and put it right in the bag, and didn't change the 5-iron because the 5-iron was doing really good. So I don't need to change my swing for any of them. I don't need to think too much. I want, when I step on the golf course, to think less. So for me to make the same swing and see the ball coming out the window that I would like, for some players it might be one one set or one type of club the entire way down. For me, it's 4 different ones from 3 down. So, you know, that's just how it is. Going into the wedges, I've got a 46.5 degree. This one is a 10 degree bounce F grind. I really like the way that the Vokey wedges look. So having something that looks a little bit more like a scoring club in my pitching wedge was definitely something that kind of lined up with my goals and everything. So really like that. I've got the 50 degree and the 12 degrees of bounce, also an F grind. You know, just getting the higher bounce and getting a little bit more forgiveness even when I'm using it for chipping or whatever. So turf interaction's great with these 2 clubs. Both are F grind, and you know, between whether it's a full shot or whether it's a long bump and run, I really like it. Going into the 54.5 degree wedge, I get really specific with them, but I've got a 10 degree S grind. Yeah, again, this one I actually use a decent amount around the chipping green, so having something that had a little bit of a wider sole, a little bit more bounce, and a little bit of versatility than my 60 degree gave me. So this is a great club for me. I really like it around the greens and going into the greens. And now this one's pretty cool. It's got an L stamp on it. This is a 60 degree, 8 degrees of bounce M grind. I've always really liked the M grind because it's been really versatile for me, whether I'm hitting a bunker shot, whether I'm opening up the face, whether it's you know, squared off. It's always given me, you know, a lot of shots to pick in an arsenal. So for me, whether the grasses change between Zoysia, Bermuda, where I'm from, or even Bent, I've always been able to use the M grind really well. Yeah, it's dialed.